A town was forever altered by a series of horrific crimes that would shock the entire country. Two brothers, Austin and Matthew Lanz, made headlines for their violent outbursts and shocking crimes. As the truth about their brutal and calculated crimes was revealed, the public was left in disbelief over how two brothers could commit such atrocities. What drove these two men to commit such unspeakable crimes? Was it mental illness, deep-seated anger, or something even more sinister? This compelling and mesmerizing account of mystery, intrigue, and malevolence will reveal the answers to these questions. The Lanz brothers, Austin and Matthew, were born and raised in Georgia. They were raised in a wealthy family and lived in a nice neighborhood, surrounded by the love and support of their parents. At first, their behavior was perceived as usual and a promising future was anticipated for them. However, as they grew older, their behavior became increasingly erratic and aggressive, which was not acknowledged by their family. Despite this, the family refused to accept their illnesses and refused to seek treatment for them. This lack of intervention would have far-reaching and disastrous consequences. The mental health of both Austin and Matthew began to deteriorate, leading to strange and frightening behavior. Austin primarily worked for his father and also held other jobs. In 2012, after finishing high school, Austin joined the U.S. Marine Corps, but was administratively let go from the military within a month and never earned the title of Marine. Following his departure from the military, he moved back in with his parents. Austin's struggles with mental health became particularly evident when he enlisted in the Marines. Matthew enrolled at the University of Georgia and studied cognitive psychology and psycholinguistics. His social media page shows that he attended college from 2018 to 2022, but it is not known if he graduated. During his time in college, he had a 5-month part-time internship at a dental office and expressed interest in children's dentistry. Matthew was equally troubled and showed similar signs of mental illness to his brother Austin. Despite the family's wealth and resources, the Lanz brothers' mental health went untreated due to a lack of understanding of mental illness and its symptoms, and the stigma associated with seeking treatment for mental health issues. In the summer of 2019, a young man by the name of Philip Brent and his fiancée Eliza Wells moved into a red brick home on Verbena Drive in Ackworth, Georgia, which was owned by Brent's grandfather. Everything appeared normal until December, when the couple received a mysterious item in the mail. Upon opening it, they discovered a folded piece of computer paper that contained an explicit adult image and an incoherent message. Brent dismissed it as a childish prank and tossed it aside. However, the escalation of the pranks continued, and Brent received graphic images of a woman in a tiara in May of 2020. Feeling compelled to take action, Brent contacted the police for assistance. The officers informed him that they could do very little, but suggested that the couple install security cameras for safety purposes. In July of 2020, Brent found himself poring over hundreds of surveillance footage after noticing an apple juice bottle with a cigarette in it against his garage door. Upon review, he discovered footage of his neighbor Austin Lanz putting an item into his mailbox late at night and placing the apple juice bottle against his garage door. Brent had long suspected Austin, as he often displayed strange and unsettling behavior. With his footage in hand, Brent and Wells once again notified the police. The police spoke with Austin's parents, who expressed their distress and agreed to arrange a brief meeting with their neighbors for an apology. The police asked Austin if he had ever met Wells and why he would have any reason to start these actions. Austin replied that he could see Wells through her bathroom window, but eventually agreed to apologize. In October of 2020, the end of the relationship between Brent and Wells took place for reasons that were not disclosed, and Wells relocated from the home. Brent, meanwhile, reported receiving strange items from Austin, including explicit images. On April 18, 2021, Austin showed up at Brent's house with a sign that read, "I'm done wondering for real." And what is the point of that? The police were called, and Austin was issued a trespass warning with a threat of arrest if he repeated the behavior. Brent chose to permanently vacate his house due to the escalating situation with Austin. He sought refuge with his sister and reached the end of his tolerance for Austin's actions. But despite Brent's departure, Austin still had intentions to continue his actions. A week later, Austin broke into Brent's house with a crowbar. The police arrived and arrested Austin on charges of burglary and trespassing, and 6 additional charges for attacking 2 sheriff's deputies. The bail was set at $45,000 and later reduced to $30,000 with conditions including a mental health and substance abuse evaluation. After being released from jail, Austin was granted permission to move out of state to Virginia to work for his father. In 2021, an encounter of violence was witnessed between a Pentagon police officer named George Gonzalez and Austin Lanz. Gonzalez, born in Chicago and raised in Brooklyn, was a decorated war veteran who had served in Iraq and earned the Army Commendation Medal. In 2018, he was relocated to Virginia to join the Pentagon Force Protection Agency, where he rose through the ranks and was promoted to senior officer in 2020. On August 3, 2021, Austin arrived at the Pentagon Transit Center, where Gonzalez, who was on patrol at the metro station near the Pentagon, was ambushed, stabbed, and killed. A struggle resulted in Lanz acquiring Gonzalez's service weapon and taking his own life. The Pentagon was put under lockdown for 2 hours following the stabbing. Gonzalez was transported to the hospital but unfortunately passed away from his wounds. The motive behind the attack was being investigated by the FBI, who was looking into Austin's background and mental health. Reports from neighbors indicated that Austin Lanz had a troubled past and had attempted to harass and break into several homes in the area. The community was recovering from the violence, but the peace was not sustained for long. On August 31, 2021, Philip Brent sold the family house on Verbena Drive to 31-year-old firefighter Justin Hicks and his wife Amber. The couple, with their 2-year-old son, moved into their new home in September. The Hicks were aware of their neighbor's history, and they shared a backyard fence with the Lanz family, just like the previous couple. Although Austin was no longer there, 22-year-old sibling Matthew Lanz had recently returned home to live with his parents. On November 18, 2021, a welfare check was carried out at the Hicks' home in Ackworth by family members and police. Upon discovering no response at the door, entry was gained, and Justin and Amber Hicks were found to have been killed by multiple gunshots. The couple's 2-year-old child was discovered unharmed but had been alone in the house for at least 12 hours before being placed with family members. The following day, while police responded to a burglary report in Sandy Springs, another 911 call was made, reporting an active home invasion. The suspect was located inside the house and was eventually subdued by police. In the process, the suspect pulled out a knife and a police officer was stabbed 6 times. However, he survived the injuries. The suspect was identified as Matthew Lanz and he was taken into custody at Fulton County Jail. Investigations conducted by the police linked Matthew to the murders of Justin and Amber Hicks the previous day. On February 18, 2022, Matthew Lanz was indicted on multiple charges, including 2 counts of felony murder, 2 counts of aggravated assault, 1 count of home invasion, and 1 count of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. The motive behind Matthew Lanz's crimes was believed to be a form of retaliation for the death of his brother. Authorities believe that he was continuing the job that his brother Austin had started by killing the neighbors, even though it was a different couple. This act was thought to be the result of a desire for revenge and to avenge his brother's death. Matthew is currently being held without bond in Fulton County Jail as he awaits trial. The community waits for the court to deliver justice and tries to understand what could have driven these young men to such extreme measures. The community in Ackworth, Georgia is still in disbelief, trying to make sense of the horrific series of events that occurred. Both brothers were young and seemingly had everything going for them, including opportunities and resources. Yet, they chose to act out with such violence. While mental illness may have played a role, it is not a solely justifiable explanation. The impact and suffering caused by their actions cannot be disregarded. Thank you for watching True Crime Prime. Kindly subscribe to our channel and remember to like, share, and comment.